Today we are talking about why 16 to 35mm lens is the perfect lens for landscape travel photography. Just to make it clear, I have the Sony Zeiss 16 to 35 f4 lens. There are many other brands, and even from the Sony you have 16 to 35 f2.8. You have the same variable from the Canon and other brands. But today we are talking about this one, particularly f4 from Zeiss. So the reason number one, of course, is because it's ultra wide, but it's not wide enough to be the fisheye. So you don't have the distorted corners. If you're a landscape photographer, most likely you are shooting very wide rather than using the telephoto lens. So this lens definitely wins it there. For the Zeiss lens, the quality is absolutely amazing. And I'm talking about both the build quality and also the picture quality. You see, it's made completely out of metal and there are just few plastic parts. And if we talk about the picture quality, then the pictures all around the range are very, very sharp. I'm not going to talk about very specifics of this lens because you can look at the other reviews, but I'm going to talk more about the summary, why this is perfect for the landscape photographer, especially if you are traveling. So if you are traveling with this lens and you can bring only one lens and it has to be something small, this is perfect because it does not weigh that much. Weighs only 520 grams, although it's built completely out of metal. Yeah. And the length of the lens is 10 centimeters. Combining this lens with the mirrorless camera, you get a really compact setup, which you can take anywhere and drop it in your bag. As I mentioned before, there is also another version of this Sony lens, which is 2.8. A lot of you might be wondering, f4 versus 2.8, which one to choose? Well, if you're a landscape photographer, then most likely you don't really necessarily need that 2.8 unless you're shooting stars. f4 is completely okay with the landscape because most likely you're gonna go somewhere around f8, f10 or 11. It's extremely versatile, 16 to 35mm. At range of 16, I can get very wide shots, as mentioned before, without fisheye, but at the 35mm, I can get close enough to the subject. Also, the 35mm is perfect for portraits. On the full-frame camera, you can use the crop sensor. Therefore, your 35mm lens would go to 50mm, which means this lens covers you anywhere from 16 to 50mm. With f4, you might be wondering if there is any bokeh in the background or is the background blurry enough. Well, I can assure you that yes, you can get. If you are close to the subject, if you're shooting the portrait and the background is kind of far away, you will get a really nice bokeh. This lens also has the image stabilization, which means you can also shoot great videos with it. For the videos, establishing shots would be the ones you would love to take with this lens. Or, as I mentioned before, 35mm is really great for the portraits. Can be used that way as well. So if we compare this lens again with the Sony's 2.8, if you already own f.4, I believe there is no reason to upgrade to 2.8. Let's look at the price. Sony f4 costs $1,350, but the f2.8 is way more expensive. It's almost double the price. It's $2,200. For this money, what you basically get is bigger lens, almost 200 grams heavier, and yes, you do get 2.8. However, you have to determine where do you use this 2.8 and where do you use f.4 more. Besides that, the filter size on the f4 is 72mm, but on a 2.8 you have 82mm. Is it right? What's the filter size? Take that into consideration because the filter, of course, will be more expensive if it's a bigger diameter. Of course, the f2.8 lens stands for its quality. It's a G Master lens and you might get sharper shots on specific cases. However, f.4 is also extremely sharp lens and performs greatly. If the money is out of the question, then you might choose which one is your best. But if you're trying to save some, I would definitely recommend to go with the f.4. Alright guys, that's it for this lens. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. See you, bye!